G'day, mate. What's your name?
My name is Tommy Dean.
And what do you do, Tommy?
Well, that is a loaded question.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of Crowd Workcast. My name's Andrew Barnett. Thanks so much for joining me. Real short intro today. It's my good mate Tommy Dean. Tommy's one of my favourite people to work with in comedy. I loved going to watch him before I started comedy. I don't think there's anyone I know whose brain can turn a thought into a joke as quickly as Tommy's does. It's absolutely amazing. He doesn't have social media, so there's nothing really to plug, other than if you do see him on a lineup or you get the opportunity to hear him on ABC Radio on Thank God It's Friday, check him out. He's hilarious, a very good bloke, and can't recommend highly enough watching Tommy Dean. Other than that, just quick little plug for me. Brisbane, this Saturday, I'm doing my solo show at the Sit Down Comedy Club. How good? This Saturday, October 7. If you're in or around the Brisbane area, I'd love to see you there. Newcastle, October 22. That's actually selling pretty well. So if you do want to get involved with that one or come along, please maybe buy now so you don't miss out. And of course, the Sydney Comedy Store, November 3. If you're in or around Sydney, I'd love to see you at that one on November 3. That's all the plugging I've got, other than if you enjoy the podcast, please do like, share, all that sort of good stuff. And if there's someone you'd like to hear, just reach out to me on social media and let me know. Other than that, enjoy this. This is my chat with the great Tommy Dean. Loaded question.
Well, I've been thinking about it. I don't want to give away any secrets, but I knew you were going to ask me that.
Yeah.
And I thought through joke responses, and I thought through real responses, and then I realized that I don't know that I can define my entire existence by one thing that I do. So I'm afraid that if you ask, what do you do? And I were to say, I bake sourdough bagels, then people might think that I was a baker of some renown, as opposed to a hobbyist who's very good at making sourdough bagels by the nines.
I feel like you are by the nines.
Yeah, the recipe that I use cuts out at 9 bagels.
So what is that's like a baker's 2/3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've been doing it for years, and you'd think by now I would have done the math. I know how to do baker's math. I could have upscaled it to 12. I could have downscaled it to 6.
No, 9's not a bad number though. Like are your family all bagel lovers, or are you the bagel freak?
Now the kids eat them, so it does work in multiples of 3. So that means we each get 3.
Yeah, that's good.
That's
a good number of bagels.
In theory, in reality, Dad gets 1, and then they fight over the other 2, and then I make more.
Yeah, nice. So. You said people would think you're a baker of some renown.
But that's if I answered, what do I do with that answer? If you just say, what do you do? And I said, well, I explore the human condition and attempt to reflect it back to them through a variety of vignettes and anecdotes.
That is see, some people just go comedian, but that's a very nice way of describing. Mind you, I wouldn't say that every comedian does that. That's a good description of how you approach things.
Yeah, because I don't even know what it means to be a comedian anymore. Like, I don't think I ever did. I mean, I had my thoughts at a time, but I don't think it's a catch-all term.
No, it's sort of, especially now, like comedian, like you see someone described on like in an online news story as a comedian. That could be anything from they do mildly humorous videos.
Yeah.
To
and I don't even like the term comedian, to tell you the truth. I like comic.
Comic. Yeah, that's a more, like I hear that more from American.
That might be why.
terms.
That might be why I like it.
Yeah.
But I think it's more direct. I think if you say you're a comic, you're more likely to be pegged as a stand-up as opposed to comedian is actor, writer, performer of any type of sketch actor.
I think of you as a humorist.
I do like humorist. Humorist implies a certain seriousness.
Humorist also implies the seriousness over necessarily a punchline.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a more directness to a humorist. But I also know that Mark Twain is a humorist. And I'm just not as racist as he was.
I've
tried.
He's a product
Really
of the
tried.
time.
I really tried.
He was a product.
No,
of
but
his
I mean,
time.
I don't know that I see it all. I don't have the wherewithal to stay with it long enough to complete a serious point. I think I hint at a serious overture using the language of stand-up comedy, but I never really complete it.
I kind of like that though. That in that when people like if you go like because there's a balance between hinting at it and leading the audience towards a thought, and letting them discover should they wish the thought, as opposed to some people. I'd prefer that as to when someone hammers you over the head with the thought.
Oh, agreed. And then I'm also aware that I'm not completely convinced by my argument.
Yeah, well, there is that too.
I mean, because I'm willing to change. I mean, one of my favorite rules in comedy is the opposite is always true, and that exists for the joke as well. So, like, one of my favorite things I used to do in my younger days, I still occasionally pull it out, but is when you go up. Lots of comics do it, but I liked reversing a joke. So if I was the MC, I especially did it when I MC'd. It's like if you did your set, I would find one of your bits or a piece of one of your bits or the intention of one of your bits, and I would come out afterwards and opposite.
Yes.
I would just do another take just to say, there's another way. He's just said this is a thing, and here's another way that thing can be said.
You have done this to me. I remember I think you've done it in different ways. Like many, I've seen you do it, and you've done it to me. But the most poignant way was I brought you on stage. I was hosting. You were headlining at the Mic in Hand years ago, and I was still reasonably new. And I had this bit before I brought you on about how basically our technology is never what you think it's going to be. Like we heard a speech in 1969 from a man on the moon, yet I lose mobile phone reception in my kitchen.
Right.
And so I had this bit, and you just unpacked the whole thing. What is confusing there is, and you had punchlines for you just took the whole thing apart, you undermined the whole premise, but you had more punchlines in your thought of mine than I had in my actual bit that I'd written.
That's why I did it. I just wanted to show you that if you just applied yourself a little bit more.
Oh man, it was so funny.
I was always worried. I mean, I quit doing it for a while because some people got really hurt, and that was never the intention. It was always just having fun with the night, like especially as an MC. As an MC, I never wanted to do my stuff per se because I was just guiding the night, and I wanted to show that, hey, did you guys have fun with that guy's thoughts? Here's another way to have fun with that guy's thoughts. By having my thoughts. Here's my thoughts on his thoughts.
Yeah.
And then people thought I was doing that. They thought, oh, he's making fun of my joke. I'm not making fun of your joke. I'm just showing you that this topic that was even like a greater thing that I overlaid on the idea of it. I didn't come out with the intention to pay attention, young comic. Learn a few things. No, that was never what I was trying to do.
I gotta say,
I was just taken by the idea and went, I have thoughts that I can never do because this is your bit.
Yeah. But I took it as, because I was aware it was something you did, and something I enjoyed from before I'd even started comedy, watching when I'd seen you at comedy nights, it was something that I always enjoyed that you did. So it was like a little rite of passage for me. And that's what I think that's why it sticks in my head so clearly, and because I was real proud of that bit too, because I was like, oh, this is a little bit, and I thought I deliberately did it before I brought you on because I thought this is it was me doing a version of the way you unpack an issue. You unpack like a premise, and so I thought, I'll do this before, see what he thinks, and then you just totally.
Sometimes though, I would do it, and like people were like, "Oh, that's such a great bit. Can I have it?" Of course, because it's just, to me, it's a riff. It's not a thing that I can have. And then my favorite was, I can't remember who it was. Or am I just not telling you because it's rude? But there was a guy, and he had a joke, and I literally opposited it. I did the opposite of it. And he's like, oh man, that's so good. I thought, you should do it. Have it. I can't do it. I can only do it. It only makes sense when you set it up. So have it. And the next time I saw him, he did it. But because it was an opposite, he did his joke, then he did my addition. And you're like, well, no, it's one or the other.
Yeah, no.
You can't have both on the same night.
Pick a position, man.
It works when we both did it because I was a separate person with a new angle. Whereas when you do it, you can only have one of those two choices.
Yeah, you can be anything in comedy except confusing.
Yeah, I was like, oh, you can't do it that way. But then the other one that's fun to do is put yourself in somebody's joke. I do that a lot as well. I think that's fun. I did that to you the other night.
Oh yeah, that was a barnstormer.
Whatever, the gig. But you do a joke about you can't be best friends with your wife.
Yes.
And then I come up and go, oh, by the way, I'm Andrew's wife's best friend.
Which a good section of that audience were on board with straight away, messing around. And then I think there was a slightly. I remember I got home that night and Nat, my wife, said, "How was the gig?" And I said, "Oh, they were dumb."
Yeah, they're dumb.
There was a section. There wasn't all the audience.
They were intellectually reticent.
Yes. Yeah.
They just didn't want to play. But I mean, you put them in. Matt, is it Matty B? No, it's Matthew Wakefield. Does a joke about walking his dog and how he meets a guy that is rude to him and won't talk to him. It's just an easy one to walk into. And then what I love about that one is you start telling the same story basically from the other point of view, and it takes a couple of beats before the audience is like, wait a minute, this sounds familiar. And then suddenly you're in the frame and you're the guy that was the jerk in his story, and then you're pointing out that he was the jerk in your story. I love stuff like that.
Yeah, that I've got to say I enjoy doing that. Similarly, I probably don't develop it as far as you. You really commit to the story and you're willing to lay out a whole lot of rope to get it to pay off, which I think I'm sometimes, especially if I'm hosting and I'm just going up between acts, like I'm like, okay, one punchline, get the next act on, keep these balls in the air. Whereas that's one of the things I will say I love watching you is you're not rushed at all. Was that something from when you start? Like, have you always been like that?
That's a long-term project. And I feel bad that I jumped in to start my answer before you finish your question, because now it feels like I'm lying. I remember when I did it. It came from two things. I really hated stage pacers when I was growing up. It was very common in my circle in the late 80s and 90s when I was first starting out. Everybody was a pacing ranter. You know, they just ripped the mic out of the stand and cross back and forth. And I came from, this sounds so up myself, but I trained in theater, which means I took a drama class in high school.
Yeah.
But I had, my original notes in performance are high school theater. And so I had a minimum amount of training is the wrong word, expectation. I learned how to move on a stage, like why you move and when you move and what moves are supposed to mean.
So there was some thought going into your...
Well, just because that's how I'd been taught about plays. All the blocking made sense. You don't move upstage unless you're diminishing a thought, or you move downstage when you're making a point, or you cross when the thought demands the cross. And then this was just random. It was just guys walking in circles complaining about the light levels of 7-Eleven. And I was like, yeah, it's bright, but slow the fuck down. Why are you running? And I did it. We all did it. But I was like, I don't like this. And so my first choice, all America, I shouldn't say all, but when I was growing up, predominantly, and it's still, I think, seen as that, the American stand-up club was defined by the brick wall.
Yes.
And that's because of the improv comedy club. All the improv comedy clubs had a brick wall as their backdrop. And so I used to think it was cool to just lean on the backdrop. So instead of... And it did two things. From a theatrical point of view, I removed myself from center stage because my point was it's not about me, it's about the jokes. I didn't want to be look at me. I wanted to be hear me. So I would just lean up on this wall and tell my stories. And then if I wanted to, I could come forward for impact. And it was just comfortable. And then...
There, don't undersell the comfort level.
And then just as I kept going year after year, I just slowly got this idea in my head that how still could you make it? Like I worked the mic stand. Like common philosophy is take the mic out.
Yep.
I don't. I leave the mic stand right there. I never move. I like lock down in the middle and I just stand right there. And some of that is practical because I don't move very well. and that's gotten worse as I gotten older. But reality, what I wanted to again do was completely still it to the story. That was the idea. I don't think I always achieve that. And I don't think it always is the most appropriate choice. But that was the grander plan in my head about being as still as possible. And then that also then translates into how you tell the story. Why everybody always seems in a rush. I know that a lot of that in young comedy is built from you've only got 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So you're trying to get as much of it out there as you can. But I've got half an hour, 40 minutes as a headliner. So why in a hurry?
Yeah, exactly.
Especially when they're dumb.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to, in your
I
head.
got a lot more time to cover if they're not laughing.
In your head, you got to be cutting out all your smarter bits, going, oh, what will they go with? But I think it's funny watching you, like I'll often enjoy watching you in front of a crowd that's been rowdier the whole night. And Peter Berner does it well too, of you're not going to try and talk over them or go above or match their energy to get them to listen to you. It's almost like and sometimes it starts and it's chatter, but then it always just everyone just leans in a bit.
You can do that with whispering too. That's a theater trick. But yeah, slower, quieter. But, sometimes you have to say, come on.
Yeah.
Come on. But as I just get older, I know some of it's age. I was always kind of like this, but it's never been to me, this sounds betrayal, but it's never been about the audience. I like telling the stories.
Yeah.
And I'm also aware that without the audience, it makes no sense. So I'm not so dedicated to the story that I would just sit quietly by myself. But
without the audience, you're just a guy leaning against a brick wall talking to himself.
Talking to himself. Anybody notice that bus stops are really close together? They're really close together.
Yeah. I had one of the...
you can see a bus stop from a bus stop. That's weird.
Then you wonder why the bus is late.
Yeah, well, because I had to stop so many times. I know why it's late. There's too many bus stops.
I had a weird realization on that the other night. I went and did this gig near Town Hall. It was like an open mic type gig, and I was just in there to try a bit of new stuff. And a lot of it's on me. Sometimes you go, I got these new ideas. I'm going to go do them, and in your head you go, I'll work it out before I get
it'll
there.
Make sense when I get
It'll
there.
make sense. And I hadn't done the work, so it was still a bit junky. But as I was walking from Town Hall Station over to where the gig was, there was this guy standing on the street preaching. And he was only a youngish bloke. He's in the talking about, and if the Lord, like we need to repent. The Lord is coming. All this sort of stuff. I remember looking at him and going, geez, that is crazy to stand out front of a thing where no one's listening and just spout like crazy stuff. And then
you went away.
Yeah, 20 minutes later, I'm standing in front of a really sort of half confused, half filled room.
Yeah.
Just, you ever noticed?
And you start thinking that guy's got better material.
Yeah. Well, at least he had a plan. He was prepared. You know what? He wasn't saying as many ums and ahs as I was. I'll give him that.
Yeah, I agree. I love those guys.
I don't know.
Committed. I'd also, by the way, just a side note, I don't think open mic is a place for new jokes.
You don't reckon? No. I don't mind. It's to me. I don't know. I don't know if your process. Do you write everything out, or do you? You seem to have. At this stage, as long as I've been sort of watching you and known you, you have an ability to formulate thoughts in joke form fairly quickly, though.
I mean, that's the illusion. To be fair, I don't write because I don't. It seems too permanent. I like boiling. I feel like everything's boiling. Simmering is probably a better analogy from a cook. But it just sits there quietly boiling. And it seems like, something new especially, you're like, oh, well, you just it just seemed like you grabbed it out of nowhere. And you're like, no, I've been playing with the recipe for a while in my head.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't. Some of it is I need the stage. Without the fire of now, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Even technically, this conversation we're having would be different if it wasn't in this somewhat performative nature that we're sitting in.
Yeah.
But I'm aware of that too.
Well, we've had similar conversations on car rides, and there's much longer pauses.
Much longer pause.
And we're not as scared to skip around topics.
Yeah.
Like, there's a McDonald's down here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it also, I think like that. Like, that's my curse/blessing. And how I got into comedy is that I used to say a lot more serious things and was just surprised that people laughed at the end of it. And my intention at the time was not to create laughter. My intention was to make a point. And then I made my point, and then my friend went, ha, 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 that's funny. I'm like, no, I'm not trying to be funny. I mean, I
There's
get
too many
funny.
bus stops.
There's too many bus stops, man. I can see it. I can see it.
That's so.
So like, a lot of my early stuff is, especially, I don't do a lot of it now, but a lot of my get to know Australia was just a fight against your cultural norms versus what I had grown up with. And people used to always call it, it's like America versus Australia. I go, no, it's just what I know versus what you know. And how you're asking me now to know it, and I don't know it. And I don't understand why you guys can't see that they're so close together.
You know what? I'm picturing now the street that, like, basically I live in a cul-de-sac, but the street that it runs off, I can walk down to my corner and see a bus stop in either direction. So you're not wrong.
Nope, I get to my corner, same thing. Do I want to go that one or that one? Well, I get on the bus sooner with that one, but I get more anticipation from that one. Similar walk. Which bus stop do I prefer? That one has a bench. That one has a bench with a lid. If it's raining, I go to that one.
That's good. It's good, mate. Change is as good as a holiday, they say.
So, there's like the Dulwich Hill light rail is right next to the Dulwich Hill train station. There's a major choice. They're both going to end up pretty much where you want to go, most likely. The train's always going to get there faster, but maybe you want to go through 3 suburbs you didn't know existed on the light rail. What is St. John's? Is that a place?
St. John's.
I don't know what it is. If you have Jubilee Avenue stop. What? Where do light rails go?
I do like when rail stations and light rail have street names as their station stops. Yeah. It's like, mate, what do we do? Like, we agreed not to be on the street here.
Dulwich Hill Terminus. I do like that.
Terminus is always a good one too.
Terminus is always good. This is where it ends.
Well, now, mate, if you're lucky, you'll get a metro as well as the light rail. You can really mix it up.
I always freak out because I don't bus very often these days, but I'll take it home from the ABC, coming back into my neighborhood, and at the 6 o'clock hour, it's a lot of expresses. So I used to freak out. Oh, no, limited stops. Oh, no. And then I realized that ends at a certain point, and I'm on the frequent stopping side of that plan.
Yeah.
And then I also realized that, based on what we just talked about earlier, even with limited stops, you weren't that far past the bus stop you wanted to get off at. just walk back.
And if you hit the bell enough and annoy the bus driver,
they'll get you off very quick.
Yeah. So talking about where you grew up, so obviously you're from the States. You grew up in the States. Whereabouts in the US?
I see it in 3 phases. Phase 1, birth and early childhood, was on the East Coast in a state called Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
One of the original 13 colonies, one of the southernmost northern states in terms of the Civil War. It's the state that's known for crabs.
Crabs and The Wire.
Maryland is for crabs. And The Wire is Baltimore. So I grew up in I was on the border of Pennsylvania and Maryland. My grandparents were dairy farmers. My father was a young get-off-the-farm type. So he was an IT guy before IT existed. Management, not actual process.
So he wasn't like punch cards in a...
No, he never knew a thing about computers, but he was a project manager, so he managed people that did understand computers, and he worked for banks for a very long time. So that took us to Florida for a short time when he worked for the bank of the Disneyland, Sun Bank, the official bank of Disney World. And then we eventually ended up in Arizona. So I get to Arizona when I'm in grade 6. So that's my middle to formative years. That's where I start comedy. So I do high school, start comedy in Arizona, and then I get to 23, and then I move here, and that's phase 3. So Maryland, Arizona, Sydney.
So Arizona, is that where the folks still are?
That's where my family is,
Yeah. So is from when you think about the States, like growing up, is that the main place you think of?
Arizona, I would call home.
Yeah.
Maryland is, we're out of Maryland by grade 3. Like I Florida's grade 4 and 5.
Mm.
We have a very brief stint in Michigan for half of grade 6, and then we're in Arizona by the end of grade 6. And that's pretty much where it all is.
Whereabouts in Arizona? Like, what are we? I'm trying to think of places I know in Arizona. Tucson?
Well, there's the Phoenix metropolitan area.
Mm.
We grew up in a Mesa, which is an eastern suburb, home of the Mormons.
Oh, really?
Well, Arizona is like the third most Mormon state in the U.S., but Mesa is home of the Mormon temple in Arizona.
Okay.
So very big
Mormon community.
outreach of Mormon
A
community.
lot of elders.
A lot of elders.
Yeah.
A lot of brothers. A lot of sisters.
So what periods is so just like are we talking? I'm just trying to picture it. Sorry, in terms of
Grade 6 to graduating high school.
yeah. So what like years like?
Oh, sorry, the actual years.
Yeah.
I graduated high school in 1986.
So this
So
is
if you work back from there, that's mid 70s, late 70s.
late 70s, so early 80s.
Yeah, because I've never really thought about it in terms of the 70s. Like 86 is when I graduate, so 4 years of that. 82, I go to high school. Yeah, probably 78. I've never even assumed that I was in Arizona in the 70s. Yeah, that's weird that I think about it now that you said it.
What is like
The 80s is what strikes me in my head.
Yeah.
When people talk about the 80s, I see high school, Arizona, and the first 3 years of comedy.
So I'm picturing the 80s Arizona. I'm picturing I do this via TV shows. So more Stranger Things than ET or
Well, E.T. is probably not bad because that's Southern California.
more deserty.
We're more deserty. But yeah, that same sort of suburban sprawl, very much neighborhoods that all look the same. There's 4 houses off the plan.
Mall.
Oh, big mall. In fact, that's like a Fiesta Mall was the mall that I malled at. Had a big outer ring that we would cruise when we could drive and pick up the ladies. If I pick up the ladies, I mean just keep driving. We just kept driving. Food court, go into the food court and get your orange Julius and your soft pretzels. And that mall is condemned
Really?
as of now.
That's yeah, that sort of was a thing even leading up to COVID that I'd heard a bit in like just listening to news and that from over there. The malls, which is one of the sort of
Social centers of United States history. Yeah,
well,
yeah.
that's what you sort of one of the things you associate most heavily with the
In
US
city
from-
towns, like small towns have different, but in cities, absolutely, the mall was. We always were at the mall. I took my first job was a paper route, and I would deliver papers, and to get paid in dollar bills, which I would take to the mall and convert to quarters, so I could shove them into video machines. With the video arcade was right next to the food court. That still has not changed to this day in any mall design, even here in Australia. And we would play pinball and Defender and Missile Command with our quarters and save exactly $1.25 to get 2 pretzels.
Missile Command. So now I'm picturing war games as part of your
Missile
job.
Command was like one of the trackball games. If you know your early history of coin-operated video
Not
games,
at all.
very popular. The big 3 in that realm was Defender.
Yep.
Defender was the one that the cool kids could play because you could reverse. It was a side-scroller shooter with a spaceship, but you could hit reverse and turn around and go back to the left,
Whoa.
come back to the right. And,
Technology.
oh, yeah. And Missile Command was just a series of sprites that came down in streaks like nuclear Armageddon was
Yep.
coming. You had 6 cities across the bottom of the screen, and you used a trackball to target your missiles, but it had a lead time. You had to hit lead time. It wasn't like 1 for 1, bang, bang. It was like, shh. So your missile would come, shh, go, shh.
So yeah, like in real life when you
Yeah, just like in
your
real life.
missile defense and then
And
you
I could
watch
get to
the
level 6. Oh, that was cool.
level 6. Did you ever get to put your initials in?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
TD.
Yeah. Oh, no, ASS. We were hilarious even then. Oh,
Yeah, no wonder you went into comedy.
So good.
That sort of gear.
So good.
That's funny. I was driving past today. That's only because you said it. I thought of it. I was driving past. I was near Tempe, and I was actually just at the top of the hill at Bexley there, turning off the Princess Highway, and there's a big like construction site. So there's, they put the plywood wall up, and someone had spray painted "Free Julian Assange" with an exclamation mark, but it obviously rained, and the exclamation mark had joined up, so you couldn't see it was an exclamation. So it just said "Free Julian Arse Angel." which I reckon
I'm for
10
that.
minutes in traffic.
Just so we're clear, I'm for that.
Yeah.
If that's a thing, I will sign the petition.
I don't know what Julian Archangel did, but we need to let him out.
I don't even know what Julian Assange did, but we still need to lead him out.
Yeah.
Let him out. Let him out. I don't know what he did, but let him out.
Yeah, it went from very political just to very immature and funny. Just because of the rain.
It doesn't take much.
No.
I love stuff like that. Anytime they like the block, there's like a classic picture of Scott Morrison standing in front of a sign that clearly says country, but he's blocked it in such a way that, hilarity ensues.
Love that stuff.
Any sort of, couple letters out. In fact, I remember Braddon, Braddon. There's a town in Canberra called Braddon.
Yep.
Braddon. But somebody had a big town sign, welcome to Braddon, and some kids had vandalized it and cut out some of the letters, but such that it didn't spell anything. No. And I was like, I had so many chances. It could have been bra on or bra double D, or you had so many options just with bra, right up the front bra. What are you doing? You guys just vandalized it to no point.
What's our education system coming to?
Yeah, what are you doing? If you're going to do anagram jokes.
I see, like, you're very much the John Cleese Roman soldier in in Life of Brian. Romans, they go the house.
Like, I do some administrative work. I work as a daytime gig in a hospital administration, and so a lot of the information that I'm given comes through Teams, the platform.
Yep.
So they send me a message, please do this. And I always respond, thank you for using Administration Supply Services, a member of the No Acronym Group. And so many of them to this day still don't know what I'm talking about.
That is very good.
And that's still Missile Command. There's ass right there. It's right there.
Because it works on so many levels.
I love the fact we're acknowledging that we have a terrible acronym, but we don't want to be known for our acronym. So we signed up for the No Acronym Group.
That's fantastic. So how long have you been doing? Is that you picked that up in COVID, that job?
I did. It was a COVID blessing.
Yeah, because I remember chatting to you about it, and you were saying how much you enjoyed the admin work of it.
I think I may have. I was okay. What I enjoy. So we're clear.
I was wondering if this was going to come around because when was the last day job you'd had before
Never.
that? Yeah.
I delivered pizza. I do that as a bit, but I say literally my employment history is from 16 to 18. I delivered pizza. From 18 to 54, I told some stories. And then from 54 to now, I also am an administrator at the Royal North Shore Hospital.
So
I did some things to get by. Like I've trucked logs for a tree lopping company, and I did temp work at a factory in Cronulla when I first got here. And you have all those little money.
Yeah, little things like
I helped the Australian Defence Force move from its base to another base. I may have caused some problems for the Australian.
Well, I was going to say.
Well, I learned about military efficiency when they sent a 24-year-old skinny comic to move a floor safe by himself with a dolly trolley in the rain. Well, let's just say those things are heavy.
Yeah, it's kind of the point of them. That
It was the hardest day of my life. It was so hard. And I remember the guy at the end. It was like a temp agency. He's like, "Oh, what's your number, fellas? It's hard to get guys we like. So once we have one we like, we always ask for that guy again." And I'm like, "My number is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You just dial that. Bye."
Yeah, it's not. Look, it's not me. It's you. I'm not coming back.
No way. But outside of that, I've never had a pay slip job, as I call it now.
A pay slip.
They sent me a pay slip. They're really quite intricate.
Yeah. Oh, mate, have you done you've done your first tax return and all the information's just there. You don't have to provide anything.
It's all right there.
Yeah.
Do you know that my salary is worked out to 4 decimal places?
4 decimal places.
4 decimal places. You say that. How much do you make? I make $32 an hour. Well, I make 32.4615 an hour. It's crazy.
That's
By the way, I made those numbers up because I certainly would not think to remember
no.
what my base rate is. But I do know specifically it's figured to 4. And I thought, what am I, a bobsledder? That's like bobsled numbers.
It's a beautiful level of specificity that's just like because you can only spend to 2 digits. And if you're using physical currency, as long as that last digit's either a 5 or a 0 in this country.
Yeah, but I already rounded that one, and now I'm working out the 4 numbers, and it makes me think, it doesn't make me comfortable. Let's just say that. It makes me think that every time I read a story about, we accidentally underpaid the workforce by $1 million. Yeah, because you're making it too hard. Give the guy $20.
That's the it's like the old apocryphal story of the guy that just did the rounding error on the and funneled that all to his own bank account and was the billionaire all of a sudden. I do wonder about that. Like I always thought this is a much younger me idea for a scam was that when you have in your bank account. Well, it's not even really a scam. When they go, you've got, your bank account might end in a 4 cents or a 3 cents. But if you take it out, they'll round up. They give you the rounding benefit. And so my idea was I'd just do that, then take that money out, deposit, get the physical money, open a new account, deposit it back in, boom, 2 cents.
2 cents.
No effort. Except, turns out a lot of effort.
Turns out a lot of time as well. People forget that time is money.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean what you think it means, but it is. Oh yeah.
That's when I hear about people, I don't know if you've got those people in your life that will do anything to save the smallest amount of money. And you're just like, you don't like yourself.
You don't like. Well, that's all they know. But I say that, but there are times. Here, we talked about it just before we came on air, but this right here, not my favorite soda. Nothing against you, Bundaberg. I quite like ginger beer to a point. It's a once a month type of soda. I'm more of a Coca-Cola regular.
Good if your stomach's a bit upset.
I think it's nice.
Settle you
It's
down.
brighter. It's sharper. But also, weirdly, in this bottle, only $2 at the petrol station. And a similar amount of Coca-Cola, they wanted $4. And I was like, what? It's the same. It's the same. Yeah. Isn't it the same? At a constitutional level, water, fizzy, deliver.
But, and surely the scale on which Coca-Cola is being made as opposed to that's a little.
It makes no sense. It makes no sense. So it makes me angry. But I also was not about to pay twice as much for a Coke because a Coke is not twice as good as a ginger beer.
You're one of the few people I know who still insists on the full strength Coke too. You're a full sugar guy.
First off, let's just be clear. When we say Coke, there's no need to say full strength Coke because that's what Coke means. I don't know why Coke is getting these descriptors. It's the Coke. Everything else changed. Do you want the lightweight Coke? Do you want the not quite Coke? Do you want that? Do you want the lame ass Coke? Do you want that? Then you say that. Do you want Coke? I want Coke. Do you want real Coke? Well, of course I do.
Real Coke. Real Coke seems dangerous at this stage. I can't do that much sugar.
I don't drink as much as I used to. And you're right, it is. And I have got the bottom denture plate to prove it.
But you don't have a lot of vices.
I thought you were going to say, you don't have a lot of teeth. No, I don't. I just made it clear, Andrew, that all of my bottom teeth are gone.
Because you don't drink or anything, do you?
No.
So that's like, I'll go, mate, I'm not having the sugar in Coke, but I will happily drink multiple beers. And
but I don't know. I never thought about it in terms of sugar. I just liked it because it was free at gigs.
Yeah.
Like when I grew up, you could still, if you were friends with the bartender, you could maybe. I think you were good for like 1 or 2, even in the 80s. Mm-hmm. And then you could buy them cheaper. But I watched a lot of, because you worked in America in the early days. You did a gig for a week. You were there every night for 6 days, 7 days. So every night watching middles and headliners just kill themselves with discounted beers. That was the first lesson. 1, dangerous to work in an alcoholic environment and take advantage. And secondly, they would never charge me. I could drink endless Coke. Little did I know at the time what I was paying for was my teeth later in life. But at the time,
Yeah,
I had
well,
my teeth and all my money.
if you added up the price of all those Cokes and compared them to dentistry,
I think I'm still ahead. You got to work the compound
oh.
interest. Oh, you got to work the compound. Do you know how much they charge for Coke
Do you know how much they
in
charge
comedy
for
clubs in America?
dentistry? Yeah, well, you'd have to tip too in America with the.
Oh, well, I say dentist, but he's also my hairdresser. So, so that's a half joke because the guy that I do get my hair cut at has just introduced teeth whitening as a second discipline.
Really?
What? It's just trim my beard and maybe whiten those up a little bit. What? What? No.
That sounds like someone bought into a pyramid scheme at some stage.
That's an old Akmal joke. Now that I think about it, he used to do similar. I used to get my haircut at a place that was a haircut and tobacconist.
Yep.
I think I got the tobacconist.
I used to get my hair cut at one of those that was right at Central Station because they do it for $5. And the last time I did it, I realised that I could probably pay the place around the corner that's $10 and just a barber, because the lady who cut my hair started on the top. I don't know a lot about haircuts, but they never start on the top.
I don't know. I started going to barbers now because I don't care. But I used to be very pedantic about beauticians because mostly I like the full treatment. I like getting my hair washed and they'd cut it wet and they knew what they were doing. I liked all that. But I remember too, when I had my family, we were all in Melbourne years ago. We were all going out to dinner. This is back before cards ruled, so I had a certain amount of cash.
Yep.
And we were all going out to this fancy breakfast to a place in Melbourne my wife had heard about. I want to go to that fancy breakfast place. So we get there, and of course there's a queue. And they told us it's going to be like 40 minutes till we can get in. There's a place around the corner. I'm going to get a haircut.
Now this is a morning.
And then my daughter came. She said it was hilarious. I'm like, oh, Daddy's getting a fancy haircut. And then they're like, okay, thank you. That's your haircut. And now you owe us all the money in your pocket. What? Uh-oh. Oh, no. Oh, this isn't. Okay. I have to go back and get my wife. How? This place is. We can't stand in line. That's crazy. Let's go to McDonald's and get a hash brown and split it.
Did everyone enjoy my.
By the way, how do I look? Do I look very nice? This is your French toast.
Oh, that is. Yeah.
So bad.
Especially in those days when that was it. Like,
that was it.
Yeah, you didn't have.
There was no backup plan.
And I'm guessing it was a weekend, so you didn't. Like, it's not like you could go get more money.
It was terrible. It was terrible. It was so embarrassing. But it was a good haircut. But my point is, $5 is enough.
Yeah. Oh yeah, $5 is enough. I've never been a big I don't know. I get the same haircut. I've had the same haircut for a lot of years, so it's not like.
But this is my roundabout way of saying that over the last couple of years of having a real job, what I really like the most, it's not necessarily the administration itself, which is fine. I enjoy problem solving. I like paperwork as much as the next guy. I enjoy my colleagues. I like going in. I like a regular routine. I like morning coffee. I like Baker's Delight. They make an excellent Vegemite scroll. Excellent. I like going to the store now and not worrying when I tap my card. And I'm not saying I'm getting outrageous cash. I'm just saying I'm getting regular cash. Because I don't know if anybody out there knows this, but in comedy, we get paid. But it's when do we get paid? That's the problem. I did a gig on Monday. Will I get paid on Wednesday or the Wednesday after that or the Wednesday after that or the Wednesday after that? I'm never quite sure.
Now, this is the positive, the glass half full in me, is there's nothing better than, though, when you get paid for the gig that you'd forgotten about because it's been so long since you invoiced.
That's true.
That feels like bonus money.
That does. And then what's worse is discovering the invoice that you forgot about that still hasn't been paid. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
And now that awkward, hey, remember 6 months ago when I did that gig? Remember because there was that fight? And they really hated me? Remember that?
Yeah. It was the last time you did that room.
Can I get that $75, please?
Man, $75. Is that, how was so you started comedy in the 80s in the US. Is that the famous comedy boom you started in?
It was the comedy boom, but in the sense that comedy clubs made a lot of money. I used to do the Improv. This is like the biggest club. And for the MC got $50 for the week.
For the week?
Not per show. It was $50 for the week, plus your bonus was they sold merchandise. And so you got $1 for every unit of merchandise they sold. That's what you got paid on.
Wow.
So every improv comic of my generation has a bit about, because the way the show would work, you would do 10 up front and introduce the middle act.
Yep.
And then
How long would they do?
They would do 20. It was 15, 20, 40.
Yep.
And you would do 10 of your 15 up front. Then you'd introduce the middle. The middle would do 20. You would come back. And then with that 5 minutes, you would maybe do a joke or two, but mostly you would sell T-shirts. And we all had the T-shirt bit. Everybody had their own way of pushing the idea. And some of it was built in because every Tuesday was T-shirt Tuesday at the Improv. So if you wore an Improv T-shirt to the gig, you got in for free. You still had to pay 2-drink minimum, but so that was the hook.
For the T-shirt.
If hey, $10 for a T-shirt, and next week free, pays for itself. Everybody, that was the push. And so at the end of the week, all right, we sold 300 T-shirts, so you get $350 for 8 shows. You're like,
wow,
that still wasn't that good.
Man, that's I'd never heard that. That is amazing.
Yeah.
So how did the middle, like, were they paid better, or did they?
Yeah, they were paid normal. I don't know what their money was. Nobody ever talked about it. I think they probably got whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a 7-day run, so I don't know how they built it now that I think about it. It would have been gauged on the night, but they probably would have got $200 a night.
So were you getting
headliners? Headliners probably were in the $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 for the week.
Yeah,
for sure. Because that used to be the other joke, the big joke. Because you stayed. Usually, you all lived in the same apartment if you were from all out of town. So that was another big joke for MCs. Was I spent the day watching the headliner shop, and the headliner would always buy everybody drinks.
Oh no!
Not every single night, not all of it, but he would always.
Yeah.
There were a couple that were jerks, of course, but generally the etiquette was the MC would be looked after by the headliner in the middle.
Is there anyone you worked with in those days that, like, now is a name or was?
All of them.
Yeah.
Every person I've ever met is a star. Except me. Oh my God, I'm Dumbo's Feather. I'm comedy's Dumbo's Feather.
Dumbo's Feather. So I am so happy you've done the podcast now.
So good. Oh yeah, get ready. Oh, this is the one that launches you. Andrew Barnett is about to go to the big time. Do you remember when that guy was on your show? Who? I can't remember, but he was good. Names that people would know. Pablo Francisco.
Yep.
He mostly shot through as a stand-up. He never really converted it to film or TV that I'm aware of. But Pablo, I grew up with Pablo. Pablo and me, we all worked in the same club in Tucson, Arizona, called Laughs, LAFFS, in Tucson. Also had a Colorado room and a New Mexico room. Little 3-store chain. Pablo, he was down there. He used to be just the guy that would get up and make stupid noises after the show was over. He worked at the club.
Oh, yeah.
And then he started doing open mics, and he ran with all of us. And he was just the kid and then he blew up in the whole Def Jam world of late 80s, early 90s. So Pablo jumped out of nowhere. David Spade is from Arizona.
Oh, wow.
So he's a class ahead of me, but just when I'm starting, so I'm starting in 88, 89, and he's already established as a stand-up, and he's maybe a year or two away from Saturday Night Live. When he started. He started Saturday Night Live. I don't know the dates exactly, but he was around, but he wasn't my buddy. He was, David Spade. He's the good comic that's here. We'd all go down and check out Spade. Hey, Spade's on tonight. You want to go check out Spade? Yeah, we'll go check out Spade. Let's go see what Spade's doing. We'll go watch Spade. These are all local Arizona. The Gin Blossoms were of that era as well.
Oh, really?
The band. In fact, we used to go check out Spade, and then we go check out the Blossoms. Yeah, go down the Long Wongs. Go down the Long Wongs in Tempe and see the Gin Blossoms after we saw Spade at the Improv. Yeah.
What was there? Because they had a few hits pop off here. They had, their
biggest hit here was called Hey Jealousy.
Yes. Were they, so obviously you'd know the back catalogue a bit better then than...
No, I hated him.
Really?
I really hated him.
Was that Evan Dando? Was he the...
I can't remember. I can't even remember.
Very Cardigan.
No, the singer, Doug was the guitar player, and I knew him a little bit, and just from hanging out, he was a drunkard. They were like, 'cause he was the mad genius of the Gin Blossoms, songwriter, guitar player, and mad drug alcoholic. And if you go, the main reason we would go watch them, I didn't like their music, but it was like, I don't know if you guys even go back to Anthony Morgan, the Melbourne comedian.
Yep.
He had the exact same reputation of when you went to see him, it was either the most amazing thing you've ever seen or the greatest train wreck.
Either way.
And either way,
yeah, worth
it was
a gamble.
great fun. So the Blossoms would either be like just rock and roll heaven or Doug losing his shit and equipment getting trashed and fights between the members and spilling out into the stage. And there was this tiny little, they sold wings. It was a wings and beer, Long Wongs, famous for wings. And we would eat wings by the dozen. They cost like 10 cents each.
Oh, wow.
You know, bring us 6 dozen spicy wings, and we'd eat wings and watch things happen.
Watch the Gin Blossoms. That's so not your
There's
kind
a lot
of
of
music.
guys. Troy Conrad was another one.
Yeah.
Blew out there. I mean, a lot of people are still in. I'm surprised at how many of my original class are still in the game, but many of them, like me, took the Japanese professional tennis route, as I call it.
Japanese professional tennis route.
You know, you can do quite well, but no one ever knows who you are.
Yeah.
You don't compete in the big tournaments, but, you know.
Yeah. You're on the APT tour.
They can hit the ball. They can hit the ball.
I don't know. You've got a certainly comedy. Any comedy audiences around Sydney will know you. Like I remember being aware of you.
Nobody has posters of me.
No. Well, no, I don't. Do people have posters of comedians anymore?
I
Like
hope
that?
not. I hope not. I don't even have a current headshot, so I shouldn't complain about it.
Really? But there is something silly about the headshots, isn't
I hate
there?
them so much.
Days?
But you know what I hate more? Bad headshots. So I'm in this terrible catch-22 where I can't stand getting a new picture, but I can't stand using my old picture that I couldn't stand getting back when I got that picture. I just can't stand it.
How old are we talking?
Oh, well, the most recent one that runs around is pre-COVID. It's about 5 years old. That's the most closest to what I actually look like, but no beard. And then there's some people still use ones that are from 2002. What? Like, I think they just pull them off the internet. I found out recently, a friend of mine was booking a gig, and he said, you know why they're using that picture? It's the only high-res they can find on the net.
That is.
So I've got a high-res shot from 2002. Pre-children. That's me with no kids and a terrible shirt. That's way back.
That's 21 years ago. It's
crazy.
But that makes perfect like comedy booker or comedy promoter sense. That okay,
I understand.
That's the high res one.
And it also makes me think it doesn't matter because that picture has haunted me for 20 years. I also feel like people don't care what picture is on the poster.
Yeah, well, very.
Nobody's coming in going, oh, look at him. He's broken down.
Sorry.
He's old.
What, Tommy Dean's dad's on the bill,
Yeah.
is he? What? Yeah, no, that's a good point. Like, I don't think, and they need like a picture to put up of something, and it makes it feel like there's something if they've got some comedians on the thing. But yeah, I don't know how often people are walking past a poster.
Cares.
And
I'm pretty sure nobody cares. I'm pretty sure nobody even looks at the name. I'm not even convinced name matters. Like, I think people would come to us and they might go, oh, there might be a few people. I think there's a handful of people that say, oh, Tommy's on. We should go see that. But I think most people, like, oh, it's him again.
I get working with you. I'll get people say to me that we love Tommy on Thank God It's Friday on the ABC, and so there are people that'll tell me that they're coming to see you.
Yeah,
whether they're telling you or not.
But to what end?
Well, that's the thing too. Is often like people say to me, like friends and that, they go, "Oh yeah, I saw you're on it, doing like a comedy night here. We'll come along and see you." So,
sure.
Yeah, I don't
never
get
tell
paid
people.
by the ticket at that one.
No,
Come and see my solo show when I'm getting paid by the ticket.
I don't even think that makes sense. I don't like it when friends and family are there. Like, this is not for you.
Oh yeah. Oh man, I'm worried.
This guy on stage is for them. I'm built for you don't know me.
It's funny. I'm worried about it coming up on this Sunday as well. But so my oldest son, he'll turn 15 very soon, and so he came. Well, there was a night I was opening for Jimoan recently, where
I opened for Jimoan too. If we're dropping names, I opened for Jimoan. I forgot to mention that Jimoan was just starting out when I moved to Australia, and I also worked with him and made him famous. Jimoan.
Excellent.
Sorry, good on you, by the way.
Yeah, well, we've come full circle. No, this is recent, and we did the gig, and I went on stage, and the only other time he'd seen me, my son had seen me, was during COVID when we did one of those seniors gigs at the town hall, and I very distinctly, it was just, which to give context for anyone listening, that was I think 11 a.m. in the middle of the day in the Sydney town hall, but which seats many people, but because of social distancing didn't have heaps of people, but they're all seniors and a few carers of seniors, and it was, they weren't sure what to make of me, and so I basically bombed in front of my son. So I thought, I'll take him, these Jimoan gigs are going good. He was a loose end one night, he wanted to come see Jimoan, so I said, yep, come, you can sit side of stage. Of all the gigs we did together, this was the hardest. The worst one. All I could think was, I am bombing in front of my son again. Yeah. And luckily, Jimoan found the audience difficult as well. And he got off, we went backstage, and he says to me, I'm so glad you found them. You said you found them hard work, because that was hard work. And my son Oscar walks in, and first thing Jimoan says to him is, Oscar, you have to understand, your father and I are usually much better than that. But now he's coming to a corporate this Sunday at the NRL Grand Final.
Haven't you figured out yet that he's a curse?
Well, this is the problem, because what happened was, I got the gig and it includes 2 tickets to the Grand Final, and so I said to my wife, I've picked up this gig, like it's 10 minutes at a function, and then I get to watch the Grand Final. You beauty. I wasn't thinking too much of it. She goes, I said, you get 2 tickets to the Grand Final. She goes, you're taking me to the Grand Final, are you? And I went, I hadn't thought of that. She goes, have you already asked one of your mates? And I have a mate that I play cricket with who's a Broncos fan. So I said, I was going to ask him. And then I rang him, and he bought tickets the day before. He's like, So I said to her, didn't. She goes, well, why don't you take Oscar then, our oldest son? And I'm like, she goes, he'll enjoy it. And I'm like, my first thought was, now he's going to watch me bomb again.
Because I'll tell you, for free, you will.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you will. I've done a lot of Grand Final gigs. And let me tell you about the best one. It sucked.
Well, you know what the best part of this one is?
The tickets.
They booked me saying, we need you to do, it's just 15 minutes. And I was like, 15 minutes, beautiful. And by the time they sent through the run sheet, that had already been cut down to 10 minutes. And I'm like, if I can get them down to 7 by the time I go on stage, this is going to be the best.
Fellas, if I could teach you attention. Anyway, fellas, if I could just, all right then, okay. The thing about things is, they're things. All right, and whoa, go footy.
Yeah, who are we going for today? That'll be my go-to. I think I'll just be like, hey, where are my Broncos fans at? Hey, yeah.
My favorite ever. Speaking of Broncos,
yep,
because it's totally Broncos, but different Broncos. Years ago, the American Broncos, the Denver Broncos, played in a match here, but that weekend I was doing a function at the SCG in the footy room for the North Melbourne.
Yep,
back when North Melbourne was trying to make a move on the SCG, and they booked us in, big money, to do this, big function before the game. But just as I got on stage, hey everybody, welcome. My name is Tommy. And just then, the Denver Broncos cheer squad came out onto the SCG as part of the pregame fun, and everybody just got up and went outside and watched that. And I just literally, I looked at the guy that booked me, and I just leaned down the mic and went, I'm going to just keep doing my jokes. And I literally just whispered my jokes. The thing about bus stops is they're very close together. And I find that a little bit weird. Don't you guys find that weird, that bus stops are so close together? So close. And then he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, my time. And I did my 10 minutes while they all watched cheerleaders, and I whispered. He's like, I don't know that I should pay you. I was booked to do 10 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, you definitely pay me.
Oh, you're paying.
What you shouldn't have done is put me on when the Denver Broncos cheerleaders are on.
That's your problem. But if there's any argument that I didn't do my time, I think we both know I clearly did it.
I think the mistake you made was booking me.
Terrible mistake.
But now you've done that. You have to pay me.
But yeah, time. That's the secret. Corporate gigs.
Oh, man.
Just do your time.
What's the toughest corporate you've ever had? Like, or just the weirdest where like you've known this isn't going to work?
They're all, the hard. Okay, I mean, there's so many to choose from. Once you've done a handful of corporates, they're all kind of. But the worst was for a gaming convention. But it was gaming convention in the poker machine. It was a poker machine.
Oh, because I was going to say you like video games.
I like video games. I like board
You're
games.
A gamer.
I do not like poker machines. But this was a poker machine trade show at the convention center in Brisbane, and huge, like miles of convention center.
Yeah.
Every poker machine conceivable, all the new ones. And I was told I was going to do a cocktail party. And I get there and they're like, "Oh no, we're just calling it the cocktail hour." And literally, within all of the convention, all they had done is they set up a milk crate in front of, just like this. There was a camera and a mic and a milk crate, and I just stood up in this tiny corner of the convention, and then they broadcast it to all the giant TVs while everybody else was just having a break from making sales.
You could have pre-taped that.
Could have pre-taped it. It would have been better if I had pre-taped it. Because it wouldn't have had this shocked look at me going,
that's
there are like
bizarre.
6 people sitting in front of me thinking, well, you know what? So I just did the gig to 6 people.
Oh, that is...
I don't know what it's like in Brisbane, but did you know in Sydney, our bus stops are very close. By the way, this is a side note to what we talked about earlier. Another good benefit, I'm not saying I did it on purpose, but another good benefit of the quiet, still delivery eats up a lot of time.
Yeah. Which is perfect for one of those
A nodding pause can take up 15 seconds if you do it right. 2 bits and 2 pauses, and you're like, that's a minute. I only got 6 more to go. A lot of guys rushing. Hey, what's everybody doing? What? Oh no, I still have a whole minute left.
That's the funny thing at that room I was telling you that where I did went to do new stuff. I fell into that. You know when you stuff and all of a sudden you like, because you're not getting anything out of the audience, you just start rushing through, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh man, I haven't even got near to my time, and I'm almost through my new stuff. I might have to throw some old jokes.
Yeah.
I hope that, and then they don't work because you've got no.
Because you've ruined it with all those new jokes.
Yeah.
They have no trust.
And now you just go away with no confidence.
Yeah, that's why I think it's a bad idea.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm doing after this too. So.
Oh, that's a good idea. No, did I say bad? I meant good. Congratulations. I want to salute both your ambition and your excellence. No, but you know what I'm going to do? Get a burger.
Get a burger.
That's what I'm going to do.
You do eat. You have like I think I remember dropping you. We did a gig down the coast somewhere together, and we met at a McDonald's near a train station, and I drove you down, or maybe you'd parked there or whatever. And I remember you on the way back. You said, "Just drop me at that McDonald's. I'm gonna get." And I was like, "Man, if I had this guy's metabolism,
be good." Just so we're clear, when I'm at McDonald's, I don't get the burgers. I get the cookies and the coffee.
Yeah.
Just so we're clear.
And it was late at night, so clearly you have no problem with caffeine and sleep.
No. Caffeine wakes me up in the morning, puts me to sleep at night. Because, as we pointed out at the very beginning, opposite is always true.
Mate, we are getting to time, but before we go, where can people find you? Plug anything you want to...
Well, thank you for asking me what I do. What I do is I wake up every day and ask myself, what can I do to make the world a little bit funnier? That's what I ask myself. And then I don't answer it because I think that's hilarious. I have nothing to promote. And even if I did, I wouldn't tell you.
Okay, fair.
I'm going on a cruise gig tomorrow.
Oh, nice. Where are you headed
So I'll be going to Brisbane to go to the waters of Brisbane and then come back to the waters of Brisbane.
Oh, one of the big U-turn tours.
Big U-turn tours. And I'll be doing that again next weekend if you want to do the Sydney to Sydney P&O Laughter Cruise.
Is that out of Sydney? Because I think I'm in Brisbane next weekend.
No, I'm in Brisbane. I mean, if we're dating it, tomorrow's the end of September.
Yep.
And then the following weekend, I'm doing Sydney, turnaround Sydney.
I was going to say.
And I'm doing a corporate thing in Melbourne. I'm worried about that one. Like, my inn in Sydney is TGIF, so at least some people are vaguely aware that I've done some stuff. In Melbourne, I'm nobody. Like, so nobody. So I think this gig in Melbourne is trouble.
Nah.
I mean, it'll be corporate nothing for them, but there's no
hook.
There's no net.
Yeah. I don't know. That's how I feel like at most of those corporate.
But none of it matters anymore. I mean, that's where I get torn. I mean, we could go on and on about my philosophy of audience versus material, but I just don't know why people go to comedy.
I cannot tell you how hard I relate to that. It's like I look at ticket sales because I'm currently selling tickets to the 3 shows I'm doing Brisbane, I'm doing a solo in Newcastle, and I'm doing the Comedy Store. And I look at ticket sales and I try and think of what do I do? Like, how do I promote this and that? And I realise so many times, the amount of times I've walked on stage at a solo show and looked around and realised, there's people here who aren't my friends and family. Like, I'm thinking, what are you doing here? Because it never occurs to me to do anything.
I would never do it. That's why every time I walk out, it's a surprise. And that's why I like it that way. That to me is I like it when it's just comedy night. Hey, did you know that your local club is doing comedy? And then you go, hey, wouldn't laughing be fun? And you go, okay, I'll go try to do some laughing. And then I come out. I mean, you know what I like doing? Telling stories that, sometimes generate laughter. So I'll do what I like doing, telling some stories. You do what you like doing, laughing at some stories. And then we all go home surprised. I'm surprised you were here. You were surprised I was funny. We're all surprised. It's so nice. I love surprises. What I don't like is Tommy will be here on that day and you should come. Then I walk out and they're like, well, you told us to come. Now what? I'm like, whoa, that was never my intention.
Hey, Tommy, we've got expectations.
I don't want expectations.
We've seen you multiple times before and we've really enjoyed it every time. So now you don't have to. That's what I realised. The hardest thing would be over a long career where people follow you and because they like you is following yourself.
Yeah.
It's like they come in with expectations and just like, that's why
that's why people that actually know me, they're like, I should go to your show. You're like, no, because you get to hang out with me.
Yeah.
I'm not like saying I'm a comic in real life. I'm not like always on. I'm not that crazy guy, but I'm pretty funny. I will tend to the amusing in our social interactions.
You might realize I've been slipping bits in our conversation just to
but not even
spice it
bits.
up
I'm saying you will get me at my most natural. You will get me at the part where people go, you know what? That thing you thought was funny, you should do comedy. I'm like, yeah, maybe I will later tonight, and you shouldn't come.
Yeah. If everything goes right, there'll be people in the audience who want to come up, approach you in the bar afterwards and chat to you because they think you're on. That person, your friend is already getting that Tommy. They get the after show Tommy.
That is much better. It's much better. So much better. That's the problem. I think that's the hardest part, I think, is tapping in. Like, there's probably 10% of shows where I feel like that was pure. And the rest of it is like, oh, man, I'm just going to hit him with recycled bottles.
10%. I'm sure your strike rate's much higher than that. Like, in terms of audience, they would have no... They don't know.
Clue. But I mean, I know. That's what I mean. Like, where it all marries. I'm at my purest thought process where I'm doing it as new as I possibly can, and it's as pure to now as it can be, and you're here now, and I'm here now, and all of this only happens now in this pure moment.
I've got to say, having worked with you a bunch over the years, there are times when I've watched you in those moments where it's almost a playful Tommy. Like, it's like you're having fun.
It's the first 10 minutes.
But you're having fun messing around.
Yeah, it's the first 10 minutes. That's usually when it happens.
Yeah.
The first 10 minutes. And if that first 10 minutes, I'm always fighting to make it last the whole time. And then somewhere between 5 and 8, I'm like, I can't do it. Where's my bottles? There they are. I'm going to start hitting them with recycled bottles.
Like that feeling of when... something's happening in the crowd and it's going so well and you're like... All right, well, it's material after this, and I don't know if the material's good enough to follow the bit of crowd.
Riff pure, but it's hard. It's a hard game. That's all I'm saying. It's a hard game. So 10% of all gigs totally pure, and 10% of any gig pure.
Well, whenever you see Tommy on a poster, go see him because you'll probably get those 10%.
Yeah.
Mate, thanks
but also
so much.
know you're not going to see him. You're certainly not going to see that guy. That guy, that picture, that guy does not exist anymore.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, that guy knows for sure. Bus stops are very close together. So very close.
Mate, thanks for doing this.
Thank you.